Gyo Tokyo Fish Attack is a horror anime released in the year 2012. The storyline follows a trio of girlfriends, Kaori, Erika, and Aki, vacationing in Okinawa to celebrate their upcoming graduation. Though the trip was supposed to be a lovely outing to the seaside, it becomes a horrifying menace when suddenly a plague of enigmatic walking fish forces them to rethink everything they care about. Before the opening credits, a crew of fishermen is seen trawling the sea. All of a sudden, they're shocked to see what they have just caught in the trawl net. The anime starts with a girl named Kaori Sawahara talking to her fiancé Tadashi on a phone call, discussing her girl's grad trip to celebrate their upcoming graduation. She wants to go to Okinawa, as it's a fresh and peaceful island. Tadashi, who works as a sound technician in a music studio in Tokyo, has arranged his uncle's summer house for her trip, for which Kaori is very appreciative of. However, Tadashi himself is not a big fan of the summer house as it's close to the sea. He tells Kaori that he would prefer their honeymoon to be away from the sea. Kaori expresses that she can't wait to graduate and marry him. Tadashi assures her that time will fly by. Just then, Kaori sees some local boys interacting with her friends in the restaurant. She hangs up the phone and goes inside the restaurant to make sure her friends Aki and Erika are fine. While Erika is a very outgoing and lustful girl, Aki is an introvert who does not care much about the world. Kaori asks Erika to stop thinking about boys for once and focus on their girl's grad trip. The trio of friends leaves for the summer house in Okinawa. While heading there, Aki smells a terrible stench. She asks Erika and Kaori about it, but Erika brushes her off by saying that something might have got rotten. Upon entering the summer house, the three of them encounter a rotting stench, like dead bodies. Kaori opens up the windows for ventilation. Just then, Aki witnesses a strange scuttling creature. When she tells Kaori about it, Kaori refuses to believe it. However, the creature turns out to be something impossible, a bizarre fish with scuttling, sharp metal legs. The girls are flabbergasted to see this new and unbelievable creature. The disgusting smell emanating from it makes them want to throw up. Aki suggests Kaori call the concierge to throw it out, but the house help leaves at night. While Aki and Erika argue about who will get rid of the fish's body, Kaori volunteers to do it. She puts it in a plastic bag and dumps it in the garbage outside the house. However, soon after dumping the fish, the plastic bag starts inflating and bounces to get out of the garbage can. Meanwhile, Kaori gets a call from Tadashi and tells him about the development. Tadashi laughs it out, refusing to believe that a fish with legs can exist. Kaori insists he takes the matter seriously and reports about it to his uncle as the smell seems of a dead human body. Just then, the plastic bag flies above Kaori's head unbeknownst to her. Within hours, a strange mechanism takes control of the sea creatures when they suddenly start springing into the sea. The following morning, someone arrives at the door. When Kaori goes to see, she's infuriated at Erika for inviting the boys whom she met earlier in the restaurant. She demands Erika get rid of them as they have plans to pursue for that day, but Erika refuses to do so as she thinks going out with Kaori and Aki will be boring. She abandons her friends and takes the boys to her room. Upstairs, Erika suggests they have a threesome. However, just when the boys advance toward her, a gigantic killer shark with metal legs and a deadly stench emerges from the window and storms into the room after breaking the window. While the boys run away, Kaori and Aki arrive to help Erika out of the room. However, the shark creates huge destruction on the floor. When Aki asks Erika to help her stand up, she shows her selfishness and runs away, leaving her friends alone. Kaori helps Aki and escorts her to another room, but soon the killer shark attacks them there, injuring Erika in the process. When Kaori throws a chair at it, it becomes hysterical and charges at Kaori only to plunge to death from the window. She looks through the window and is shocked to see sea creatures crawling on the land in high magnitude. Soon, the strange mechanism that took place in the sea grants the creatures with legs and sends them on land to attack. They start swarming Okinawa Island with a revolting death stench. The news of the walking fishes spread like wildfire as the public find themselves unable to bear the rotting stench of death. The authorities capture the creatures and send them to a research institute to investigate what they actually are. Worried, Tadashi calls Kaori after seeing the news to make sure she's fine. Kaori assures him that she's fine. She asks him if everything is alright in Tokyo. Just then, Tadashi is attacked by a giant creature and he loses contact with Kaori. This drives Kaori to head back to Tokyo to make sure Tadashi is safe. Her friends advise against it, but Kaori relentlessly leaves. Meanwhile, The lustful Erika enjoys her time with the two boys, isolating Aki in the house. On the other hand, Kaori boards the plane. During the flight, she asks the passenger next to her named Shirakawa about the current situation in Tokyo. He expresses cluelessness about it and mentions that he has seen her before. Just then, he pulls up the footage of Erika's interview after she survived the first assault and finds Kaori in the background. He gives Kaori his business card, and it turns out that he works as a freelance cameraman who covers trending incidents in the country. Since the walking fish incident cooled off in Okinawa, he's heading back to Tokyo. Kaori falls asleep during the flight and imagines the time she spent with Tadashi. A flashback scene reveals that once Tadashi made her listen to the sound of cicada in his studio, Kaori refused to hear it as it brought back the memory of her father's death. She told Tadashi that she did not want to smell the rotten corpse smell ever again. Holding Tadashi's hand, she asked him to promise her that he will never die and live with her forever. Back in the present, when Kaori wakes up, she's puzzled to see the passengers panicking. When she takes a look from the plane's window, she is shocked to see that the creatures have taken over Tokyo. The pilot contemplates whether or not he should make a landing, but when he sees the low fuel indicator, he decides to land at the airport, crashing the plane in the process and almost getting blown up due to the army of walking fishes. Meanwhile, at the summer house, the boys leave. At the airport, Shirakawa suggests Kaori take a train to her fiancé. Just then, Shirakawa receives an email asking him to cover Professor Koyanagi for the walking fish incident. Shirakawa recognizes Tadashi standing with Koyanagi. He then realizes that he can reach Koyanagi through Kaori, so he decides to join Kaori on the train and says that he will accompany her to Odaba, where Tadashi lives. Meanwhile, Aki finds Erika hiding in her room. When she checks in on her, she freaks out to see a swollen Erika reeking the same death stench. On the other hand, the train derails after it's attacked by the walking fishes. While everyone loses consciousness, Shirakawa helps Kaori make their way to the station. Erika tells Aki that she feels weird after getting speared by the fish. Her body keeps emitting the awful stench and she flips out after seeing herself in the mirror. Meanwhile, in the city, Shirakawa and Kaori struggle to evade the fish attack. All of a sudden, a walking octopus falls onto Shirakawa and strangles him with one of its legs. When Kaori advances to save him, it wraps Kaori's body with another leg, scratching her in the process. Shirakawa runs over the octopus with a truck and helps free Kaori from it. The two of them flee in the truck while they are pursued by the walking fishes. Just then, Kaori is surprised to see the same plastic bag that she dumped earlier flying over her head. Back in the summer house, Aki and Erika contend with other fish attacks. Aki also gets speared by a fish and struggles to get away from Erika. She makes fun of her appearance and reveals that Erika is a horrible friend. This infuriates Erika and she attacks Aki by telling her that she will also soon change into a swollen body. This outrages Aki and she smashes a showpiece on her head multiple times. Meanwhile, in the city, Shirakawa and Kaori are stopped by a force of men at the start of Odaba as they are trying to contain the walking fish on the shoreline. Kaori insists on getting through but is denied entry. Meanwhile, Aki realizes that Erika is dead and decides to escape. Erika freezes and tears roll down her eyes as she remembers her lustful days. On the other hand, Kaori begs the officers to let her go and see Tadashi, but to no avail. Seeing no other option, Shirakawa drags her away from there. Soon, chaos prevails in the country as the authorities feel helpless to take any measure. Shirakawa brings Kaori to his home where she finally gets to relax. She's unable to reach Tadashi as her phone got lost in the mayhem. Just then, Shirakawa finds footage of a human turned into a rotting corpse. He deduces that the cause of the virus must be the walking fish monsters, but the government denies it. Just then, he reveals to Kaori that his parents were killed. It turns out that his father was coerced into committing a crime. Being falsely accused, his father and mother committed suicide because of the shame attached. This prompted Shirakawa to become a cameraman as he wanted to capture the truth. However, he feels dejected as the truth is always twisted. Kaori suggests believing in whatever he sees and considering it the truth. Just then, she sees Tadashi's uncle on the news giving an interview to the press about the current situation. They decide to approach him to find out about Tadashi. Meanwhile, in Okinawa, a hysterical Aki leaves the house. An officer asks her to observe curfew, but just then he encounters a variant of a walking fish that has a human strapped on top. On the other hand, Kaori and Shirakawa reach Tadashi's uncle, Koyanagi's house. They come across a homemade laboratory that reminds Kaori that Tadashi's uncle is a scientist. In the laboratory, Shirakawa finds a video file on the computer named The Walking Fish. He and Kaori go through the video only to discover that Koyanagi experimented on the walking fish. He took a sample of the walking fish from Okinawa and dissected it. However, when the fish attacked his arm, he chopped it off. Moreover, he reveals that the fish was brought to him by his nephew Tadashi. Koyanagi explains that the germs infecting the rotting body produce a gas that is responsible for the terrible smell that surrounds the creatures. Later, he found that the Japanese army was secretly experimenting with bacteriological weapons that produced the death stench during World War II in a desperate effort to turn the tide of the war. Infection by the germ produced large amounts of gas from body tissue. Since the infection quickly killed the animals as they were unable to move due to injury to their motor nerve, walking machines were built to carry them further, allowing them to fight enemy troops. However, whilst transporting the machines by sea, they were attacked and sunk by the American military. Meanwhile, in Okawara, Aki plummets into a pool full of walking fishes. On the other hand, Kaori finds out that Tadashi got infected in the process of his uncle's experiment. She rushes into the basement's laboratory to look for him. However, she loses her mind after seeing Tadashi's body strapped on a walking machine that emanates the dead corpse's stink. Just then, Koyanagi appears and tells Kaori that Tadashi is beyond help now. He feels proud that he made an exact replica of the walking machine like the Japanese army. The mutated Tadashi attacks Koyanagi, spearing him in the chest, and leaves. Dejected, Kaori follows him. Shirakawa asks Koyanagi if he wants to go to the hospital, but he refuses and instead asks him to escort him to a warehouse. Kaori follows Tadashi and stops the officer from firing at him. Just then, the most gigantic walking machine with tons of human bodies strapped on it approaches Kaori. It turns out that it is gathering the infected corpses on itself. Meanwhile, Shirakawa runs into a circus where he finds out that the death stench gas might have a will of its own. The ringmaster explains that the gas that mutated from the enigmatic bacillus inside human and animal bodies may be a creature from a parallel universe. He elaborates his claims through Tadashi, but Tadashi becomes agitated and flees. Kaori follows him outside and asks him to come home. This awakens his willpower, and when he tries to ascend forward, he's attacked by an army of walking machines. Kaori tries to save him from the attack, and in the process of stopping her, Shirakawa gets speared. Later, Shirakawa requests Kaori to flee the country with the survivors. When she finds out that Shirakawa is infected, she feels bad for him. Just then, he reveals that his job was to collect Koyanagi's story and that he found Tadashi's picture in his email. He gives Kaori a flash drive containing the real truth and asks her to take care of herself. Kaori leaves, and just then, Koyanagi flies above Shirakawa in a flying machine. On the rescue ship, Kaori finds out that the walking machines are not made by humans as the inner workings are not mechanical. It's being said that they formed naturally in the ocean depths. The film ends with Kaori saying that she got used to the death stench. Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like and comment your thoughts down below. If you'd like to stick around, check out these other videos from the channel. And before you leave, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more anime in minutes.